All right, how's everyone doing tonight? Hope we're all doing well. It's been another busy week here, and it's like the Twilight Zone we're living in. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. I made a post. I want to definitely go into why climate change is the ultimate scam. How the Democrats use it for scapegoats. Also want to talk about how California should be a warning to the nation. But first, we got something important to talk about. I want to talk about a little bit about what's going on with Steve Bannon. As you all know, he was indicted in New York this past week. And I think it's important to discuss the situation that's going on with Steve. So, this is the problem. What we're at a pivotal point in this country's history, and I've been talking a lot about this. And this is not normal behavior. They spent 4 years telling the American people that Donald Trump was a threat to the nation because he was going to use the Department of Justice as his own personal wrecking ball and Gestapo-like force. That didn't happen. In fact, during his 4 years, the Justice Department was actively investigating him, right, for the Russia hoax, the Mueller investigation. So they were saying that Donald Trump was going to use the Justice Department, his own Justice Department. He had to fight tooth and nail, right, to get anything done. Now you have the Biden administration has made it known that they are absolutely going for their political opponents. And I became a teacher. I was a history teacher. I love history. And one of the biggest things that used to drive me crazy is hold on, can everybody hear me? Oh, wait, by the way, I just want to make sure the microphone's working. Let me make sure it's working. Can you all hear me? All right, so I think everyone can hear me. So anyway, I was a history teacher, high school history teacher, and okay, thanks, Joseph. I was a high school history teacher. One of the things that, I love history, grew up loving history. My dad's a big history buff. I mean, he spends all of his time watching the History Channel, the Military Channel, and people always be like, oh, history, it's a waste of time. You don't need to learn about history. We are living in a time right now where this is why it's so important to learn history, because history is our constant teacher. We can look back, and pretty much every situation that's happening in the present has happened in the past in some form or another. And if you know history and you understand its lessons, you can avoid disaster, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people have that attitude that history doesn't matter. What does something that happened 100 years ago have to do with my life today or with what's going on? And people fall for that. And in many cases, the bad actors want you to think that. There is a reason why, after totalitarian regimes take power, either they seize power or they ascend to power, that the first thing they do is target a nation or a people's historical past and try to get rid of it, right? I mean, look at what they did. Hitler wiped away all the remnants of Germany prior to his rule. Mao Zedong, right, in China. Wiped away China's history, went around destroying ancient artifacts, temples, lessons, right? Because they don't want you to know the past. They need you to be ignorant of the past. Because if you know the past, you're going to realize that the same situations have happened over and over and over and over again. And what we have going on right now is just that. I mean, we have the active president of the United States, I made a post about this, the night before September 11th, one of the darkest days in U.S. history. What did President Biden go on Twitter and do? Attacked MAGA Republicans, right? Once again, singling out nearly half the country as a threat to the country. Then, even during his 9/11 address, he once again attacked MAGA Republicans as a threat to democracy, and likened them to what happened on September 11th. So let's look a little bit. Let's watch the video here of Biden. So what happened? So when President Trump was leaving office, obviously he pardoned Steve Bannon. He gave Bannon a pardon for this situation with the We Build the Wall, right? So he cannot be charged on a federal level. That doesn't stop the Democrats. Clearly it doesn't. So what do they do now? Their buddies in the Southern District of New York, which is one of the, it's a rogue department now, right? You have a woman who ran for Attorney General in New York, who ran on the promise that she was going to put Donald Trump in jail. Okay, so they decided, well, we can't get Steve on a federal level. Let's go after him in the state of New York. Let's do that. So let's watch. Let's look at this little thing here with Steve. Let's watch what Bannon had to say. They perp walked him in front of everything. So
for every conservative in America, this is what happens in the last days of a dying regime. They will never shut me up. They'll have to kill me first. I have not yet begun to fight.
And Steve is right. These are the actions of a dying regime. All right. Make no mistake about what the Democrats, what Joe Biden, what they're doing right now. One, they are trying to incite MAGA Republicans to act out of fear or anger. They are trying to manufacture a January 6th type event, because that will give them the excuse they need to rule with an iron fist. So they want us to respond. That is why they've been so aggressive. That is why every day now you hear them talking about MAGA Republicans, the threat, you're a threat, you're a threat, you're a threat. There was even a report saying that the FBI, after the Mar-a-Lago raid, the FBI had counted on the fact that there were going to be protests and there were going to be things, and then those protests never materialized. They are trying to rile up because their grip on power is slipping away. And they need an event. They need to, if they have to manufacture it, so be it. They need an event that allows them to change, to rule with an iron fist, so they can change the rules going into the November elections, just like they did with COVID, right? COVID comes forward and they had to make sure that people understood, well, we got to drag this thing out because we got to get mail-in voting. Listen, you had Stacey Abrams that said it herself. We're not going to be successful again if we can't do it the same way we did it in 2020. They know that unsolicited mail-in voting around the country significantly affected the electoral process. You can sit here and argue all day long whether legitimate votes, non-legitimate votes. It affected the election. And now, without that, they know they're headed for a shellacking. The president has nothing to stand on. His regime, they can talk, Joe Biden lives in delusion land where he keeps talking about how this is the greatest economy ever and the most jobs created. It's delusion. It's not. What you have is the media working in concert with the city administration to peddle their lies and their nonsense, right? It's the quote from 1984, right? The party told you to disbelieve your eyes and your ears. It was their last and most essential command. Right now, the only thing the president can do and his media allies can do is try and convince you that your eyes and your ears are lying to you, that the economy is great, that everybody's doing well, that there's jobs all over the place, that your businesses are doing well. And they're going to continue to parrot this because they want you to believe maybe you're the crazy one. Maybe you're just seeing it the wrong way. Because they have nothing to stand on. All right? So what they're doing now is going after Trump supporters like Steve Bannon. This is the example that they're going to say, look at what we did to Trump. We raided Mar-a-Lago. Now we're going after everybody who is an ally of Donald Trump, right? Steve Bannon then went on TV and went on War Room and on, I believe it was Saturday, and let the cat out of the bag that 35 other Trump loyalists were issued subpoenas, had their homes raided by the FBI, and the media said, oh, this is totally untrue. Total BS, never happened. Then we get Harmeet Dillon. She goes on Fox News, Tucker Carlson on Friday night, and they confirm the story because she has clients that were involved in these subpoenas. Let's listen to Harmeet.
So a Fox News alert for you. A remarkable story. We don't know the full parameters of it, but apparently the FBI has launched a full-scale purge of supporters of Donald Trump. That would be Joe Biden's likely opponent in the coming presidential election, and that purge has intensified significantly today. So Steve Bannon just said that yesterday alone, the FBI raided the homes of dozens of Trump allies. We want to get to the bottom of this story. He said that on Charlie Kirk's show today. We've been trying to run it down ever since. We reached out to Harmeet Dillon, who says she's got some information on this. She's managing partner of the Dillon Law Group. Harmeet, thanks so much for coming on. What is the truth?
Well, the truth is that a few days ago, a Politico reporter called several people and said, hey, have you heard or have you been served yet? The FBI is going to be serving 50 approximately search warrants and or subpoenas on Trump supporters. And then, within 24 hours of that, three of our clients actually did either get search warrants or subpoenas. And these subpoenas are extremely broad. They're from the Capitol Siege section of the United States Department of Justice's D.C. office. And they ask for broad categories of documents. They ask for all communications dating from a month before the election until 2 months after the election. And they ask for all communications regarding dozens of people. And the categories are alternate electors, fundraising around irregularities around the election, and also a rally that happened before the January 6th situation at the Capitol, so the Save America rally that happened. And so basically, most of this activity, if not all of it, is protected by the First Amendment. And the United States Department of Justice is telling reporters about these search warrants and subpoenas before they're executed. There's no other explanation for this. And I think the reason for this is to instill fear into Donald Trump supporters and into those who would challenge election irregularities right before an upcoming election, Tucker. So this is really outrageous abuse by the DOJ, and it is illegal for the DOJ to leak this information to the media, Tucker.
If you alone have 3 personal clients who've been raided, then it tells you the scale of this. I can't believe decent liberals are sitting back and allowing this to happen. This will wreck the country, and they're saying nothing about it. It's really...
So she's exactly right. Harmeet Dillon she's brilliant. She's exactly right. This is being done. So the left said, oh, this is total delusion. Steve Bannon's the source. It didn't happen. Harmeet says, yeah, it did. I have clients that got the subpoenas. And she's exactly right. This is being done to instill fear in anybody. This is what happens if you support Trump, if you support MAGA. We will come to your house. We will subpoena you. We will tie you up in legal proceedings, bury you with legal bills, all because of your association with Donald Trump. Okay, that is what they are trying to do right now. This is third world stuff right here. This does not happen in the United States of America. And I like what Tucker Carlson said there. Like, how do liberals see this and live with it? They're so blinded by their hatred for Donald Trump that they are willing to allow this stuff to go on. I mean, Christopher Wray sat in front of Congress, told you that the FBI, and then Merrick Garland did the same, that the FBI and the DOJ are reputable, nonpartisan. They would never do anything that would discredit the integrity of those institutions. And here they are, leaking like a sieve since those days, constantly giving their allies in the media information that is damaging to former President Trump and his supporters. That is not what an impartial agency does. And in these cases, they are breaking the law. They are not allowed to do this. So we are supposed to sit here and see what's going on. And if you had told me 10 years ago that the left would now be, I mean, think about this. The left, right? The left is the generation, the hippie movement was the left. Distrust the government. And now you have the left. It's crazy because now you have the left on the flip side saying the government's always right. They're telling us it's true. All because they can't stand Donald Trump, right? It's insane. And now tonight, Tucker just had more stories. So the news broke again today. We had 50 subpoenas go out. Okay, so this is now confirmed. So everybody over the weekend was saying, oh, this is total BS. Steve Bannon's a liar. It is now confirmed. Let's look at what Tucker just talked about tonight.
It shocks the conscience of everyone who sees it. But the number of people who see it is very small because it is not covered by any media. And it's not just happening to Amy Kremer. This show has obtained a subpoena from Merrick Garland's DOJ issued in the past week. And what it demands is both unlawful and without precedent in American history. The subpoena claims to be investigating, quote, any claim that the vice president and or president of the Senate had the authority to reject or choose not to count presidential electors. Now, keep in mind that any claim you make as an American citizen about electors, any claim you make about American politics, period, is protected explicitly under the First Amendment. That's our core freedom. It's why we live here. It's why we're proud to be Americans. It's why so many American servicemen died protecting our country. Those are the freedoms that they fought to preserve. That's why nobody prosecuted leading Democrats in 2016 when they sought to reject electors for Donald Trump. Right. It's why none of those people, including Kamala Harris, is now in jail. But right now, according to the subpoena that we have obtained, Merrick Garland's DOJ is demanding all communication from the following people on this topic. And let's be clear before we read their names that it is not clear what the investigation is actually about. And that's the most terrifying part. What is this? On what grounds are you demanding my private communications with people? They never say. But included in this precedent-breaking sweep of political opponents of the Biden White House would be former White House advisor Bernie Kerik, who is the former police commissioner of New York City, Boris Epshteyn, who is the current attorney for Donald Trump. At no time in American history has it been okay to grab the personal communications of someone's lawyer, because those are privileged. Not anymore. Matt Morgan, Justin Clark, Kenneth Chesborough, Mike Roman, RNC official Joshua Finley, Trump attorneys John Eastman, Jenna Ellis, Joe DeGeneva, James Trupis, Rudy Giuliani.
So this is insane. So this is the thing. This is where Republicans have to get tough, because what Tucker's just pointed out is true. This is illegal. These are So you are now under investigation because you had the audacity to talk about with your friend. You could have been talking about it with your friends. Can the president or the vice president or the president of the Senate throw out electoral votes? That is now under investigation. That's protected First Amendment speech. We cannot simply allow them to decide that, okay, the amendments or the Constitution doesn't matter right now because we're going after Donald Trump, because that is what many liberals are now deciding, right? They're saying, well, it's worth it because we're going after Trump. This is the problem. This is bigger than Steve Bannon. This is bigger than Alex Jones. It originally started with Alex Jones, right? He was the first one to be banned from Twitter. Radio, it's just Alex Jones. It'll never go any further. This is the problem. It's not stopping with Alex Jones. It didn't stop with Alex Jones. It didn't stop with Steve Bannon, and it is not going to stop with Donald Trump. If people cannot see that this is a slippery slope, then this country is in serious peril. And this is where the Republican Party must get tough, because right now they are silent. I have not seen a statement from leadership since the news broke of obviously the ban. They have not defended Steve Bannon once since he was put on trial for contempt. And what happened on Friday? No one in Republican leadership has tweeted or posted or issued a statement with any support for Steve Bannon. And if they foolishly believe that this is going to end with Trump, then there's nothing we can do to save the Republican Party, and they're going to get what they want. This will not stop with Trump. Because I know that there's a lot of them sitting in their office saying, well, if you get rid of Trump, we'll be fine, right? We'll be okay. No. Look at what is happening. Eventually, you will no longer be needed to the left. And we talked about this last week. They are consolidating power, right? Right now, you are useful opposition. If you continue to let them act in this manner with total disregard for the Constitution, with total disregard for the laws of the United States, eventually they will have so much power that you are no longer needed. Okay? And that is when they will come for you. And they used to talk about this in Germany, right, during the 90s. Well, I didn't say anything because they weren't coming for me, right? I didn't say anything when they came for my neighbor. I didn't say anything when they came for my other neighbor. And then there was no one else to say something when they came for me. That is what is going to happen. And it is astounding that Republicans have not figured this out yet. This is bigger than Donald Trump. This is bigger than Steve Bannon. And Joseph, yes, I'm amazed by it every day. That's why I'm sitting here kicking and screaming, because I just can't fathom how they cannot see this. The left has decided that conservatives are evil. They're morally repugnant, right? I mean, what is the MAGA agenda that they're calling a threat to the country? What is it? Secure borders, that school choice, saving the lives of babies, right? Unborn, giving a voice for the voiceless. What other things? Work America first, right? Bringing jobs back to the United States, putting the American people first. Instead of sending money to Ukraine, let's spend it on the American people. Jackson, Mississippi, they don't even have clean drinking water. We're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Why are we not helping the people there? Those are not radical policies. They are trying to train the American people to believe that it is inherently selfish and evil for you to think that it's important that the government of the United States government puts your interests first. That is bullcrap. That is the job of our government. That is the job of our elected officials, to act in the best interest of the people they represent. And now we have one side that has decided to tell you, and the media goes along with it, that you are selfish, that you are wrong. This is a globalist forces at play here. And this will not end with Donald Trump, and it will not end with Steve Bannon. And the longer the GOP remains silent on this, the harder it will eventually be to stop them. They have to understand. Look at what happens, right? Look at Joe Manchin. The Democrats lied to their own, right? They told Joe Manchin, if you come up with the Inflation Reduction Act, which was really the Green New Deal under the inflation, it was total bait and switch, right? So they told Joe, listen, if you sell out the people of West Virginia and you vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, we'll make you a deal and we'll help you out later on with this other bill. And now, so Joe does it, pisses off everyone in his home state. He signed away the jobs of his constituents. His popularity has plunged. He's down in every poll for 2024. He's done. His career's over. And did he get what the Democrats promised him? No, they just told him, too bad, the deal's off. If they're willing to do that to their own side, do you think that they're going to look at the GOP and say, well, remember when you guys didn't say anything when we were going after Trump? We'll let you guys stick around and keep greasing your wheels. No. Like I said, eventually you are no longer of use. Right now, they need you because they still have not consolidated enough power. We are not going to get many more. This is why the November elections are so important. We need to not only take back the House and the Senate, but we need strong leaders afterwards because we may not get another chance at power. The way the Democrats are moving, they are trying to make sure that conservatives, Republicans, never allowed to control the government again. That is what their end game is, to make us a permanent minority. And they have the media out there as their mouthpiece, convincing the public that what they are saying is true, right? If you repeat something over and over and over again, eventually people believe it, right? Fascism, that's their new word, right? That's a scary word. This is something Republicans haven't figured out. Socialism doesn't scare the American people anymore. It's not a scary term. Democrats understand this. They know what words are scary. They said fascism is a big, scary word. It reminds people of Hitler. Let's label Republicans as fascists. And we will continue to do this. And because people are ignorant to the lessons of history, they don't even understand what fascism truly is. And many of these people just go along and say, you're a fascist. Donald Trump is a fascist, without even understanding that they themselves are acting like a fascist. And there's this thing in communism and socialism, right? The useful idiot. There's this term they used to describe. These are people that are that the party identifies as susceptible to their propaganda and a necessary tool to help them take power. That's what the useful idiot is, right? We can get these people with our lies. They will help us take power. And then what happens after they take power? You get rid of that person because you don't want that person to be susceptible to the next guy's propaganda. So that's what they're trying to do. And we cannot allow this to go on. And I cannot believe that we are going to have, that right now we have Republicans that remain quiet to this. Why are we not? For instance, I just tweeted today. This is how we would know if the Republicans mean business and if they're really up to the task. The debt ceiling vote is coming up yet again, right? To fund the government. Republicans need to show their voters and the American people that they have a spine, The media will never like you, no matter what you do. The Republican Party could give everyone in this country a free puppy, and the media would still attack them. Donald Trump could have cured cancer, and people would have still called him the devil and a fascist and Hitler. Okay? So what the Republicans need to do is say, we're not going to fund the government. We'll let the government go into a shutdown unless you stop the political persecution of Trump and his allies. Right now, Joe Biden is targeting his likely 2024 opponent. He knows that Donald Trump is going to beat him in 2024. And the only way to stop that is to make sure that Donald Trump is not on the ballot so that Joe can win and retain his power. The Republican Party needs to grow a pair and say, we won't fund the government until this stops. Merrick Garland, step down. Or publicly commit to stopping these politically motivated investigations. And that's what this is. So I wanted to point this out because Harmeet Dillon and Tucker talk about something that was in their subpoenas that's incredibly important. What are they back to now? These subpoenas have nothing to do with nuclear documents or the Mar-a-Lago raid, right? They're about January 6th and the days leading up to January 6th. What does that tell you? That tells you that they went down to Mar-a-Lago, they kicked in the door in an unprecedented raid of a former president's house. They didn't find what they were looking for. They didn't find the smoking gun documents. That's why they're leaking everything to the press, because they're trying to control the narrative because they didn't find what they're looking for. And now, because they didn't find what they were looking for with the documents, they're pivoting back to January 6th to try and get Trump, to disqualify him from the ballot. It's amazing that people don't see that this is what's happening. That's exactly what they're doing. They're pivoting back to January 6th because they didn't get what they were finding, what they were looking for. Okay? And bear in mind that the Department of Justice has already previously cleared President Trump of any wrongdoing or instigation of the January 6th incident. They've already done that. So here we are now, Merrick Garland rehashing the case. So we had to start and we had to talk about this. Yeah, and Nevada, are they going to arrest half the country? Listen, the goal is they don't want to arrest half the country. That's why they're doing this, Nevada Maverick. They're doing this because they want to scare you into not speaking up, right? That's what totalitarian regimes do. Look at the example we're making. If they can take out Donald Trump, if they can take out Steve Bannon, if they can take out Boris Epstein, if they can take out Bernard Kerik, if they can take out these very powerful people, what do you think they're going to do to you, you little insignificant MAGA supporter, right? What are they going to do? Now, ask me that question about the New Hampshire primary, Nevada, at the end. I always do a question and answer, so I'm eager to answer that one. But what do you think they're going to do to you? If they can get Donald Trump, of all people, what are they going to do to you? And this is where the GOP is supposed to defend us, right? We're their constituents. We're the ones they need for money for their campaigns. And a lot of them are silent right now. And I can't accept that. And they want to tell me, you know, we got to rally. We got to win the House. Power has to be earned. I want the Republican Party to earn their majority. I want them to win both the House and the Senate, but I want them to earn it. They have to show me that they deserve it. We cannot afford weakness. History demands strong leaders in times like this. Right now, we need leaders worthy of 1776. That's the kind of leadership we need in the Republican Party. Those brave men and women in 1776, they knew that by doing what they were doing, they were likely signing their own death warrants. But they did it anyway, and they spoke up to the most powerful government in the world, the British Empire, which controlled almost the entire globe. They still did it. We need leaders like that right now. We're going to look back, and historians are going to say history demanded at this point we had strong leaders. And right now, I don't see that. And that is why this is so important, that we have to talk about this. We have to turn people onto this. We cannot afford inaction. I keep saying this over and over and over again. We may not get many more times to control Congress, to have power. If we screw it up, we will be heading towards permanent minority status. And once again, people don't understand. Everybody talks about 2018, right? So Donald Trump wins in 2016. He controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House. Republicans had control of all three branches of government. or not all branches, because both houses of Congress and the presidency. And they could not get Obamacare repealed. They could not get the wall built. They told us we didn't have money for the wall. Some of those same Republicans that told us we didn't have money for the wall are green-lighting endless aid to Ukraine right now, while people in Jackson, Mississippi don't even have water to drink. And that's why they lost in 2018, because voters said, listen, we elected you because you told us you were going to do all these things. Donald Trump told us he was going to build the wall. He was going to bring American jobs back. And he tried to do it. To his credit, Donald Trump tried to keep every single promise he made. And in the first 2 years of administration, it was the Republican Party that stopped him from doing it. And voters saw that and they said, well, what's the point here? We gave you this power. You let us down. We're going to kick you out. We're in jeopardy of that happening again, right? If we take power after the 2022 November midterm elections, and then we don't do anything, we don't fight, we don't hold them accountable, voters are going to say, look, we did it again, you did nothing. And then that puts us in peril for 2024. And like I said, the path is to a permanent minority. We cannot allow that to happen. We have to take a stand. All right. And when I talk, when I hear Republicans talk about we're going to hold them accountable, what does that mean? Because in the past, holding people accountable has meant hearings, has meant investigations. We're past that time. If we're really going to hold Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer accountable, then we have to take a serious look at filing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland on day one. There's plenty to impeach Joe Biden on. Let's talk about Ukraine, right? That's an impeachable offense. How about this story that Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security took in all these unvetted Afghan refugees, sent them all around the country, and then lied to the American people and told them that they were bringing in, they were vetting everybody. Now we know it's not true. The Department of Homeland Security's own watchdog says Joe Biden's administration just dumped these people without any verification. That's an impeachable offense. National security is all the rage today again, right? Donald Trump took nuclear codes. That's a threat to national security. You know what's a threat to national security? Putting unvetted refugees from hostile countries into our neighborhoods. So accountability to me means impeachment. Merrick Garland, either Republicans take both the House and the Senate. We should have public commitments from Republican leadership right now saying that they will demand Merrick Garland resign or that he will be impeached on day one. Right now, no one's done that. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen because you had 20 Republican senators that voted to confirm Merrick Garland. Mitch McConnell recommended Merrick Garland as head of the FBI to Donald Trump after James Comey's departure. Right? And you're right. Kevin does want to be speaker. I mean, that's what Kevin's thing is. He's going to do and say what he needs to get that gavel. And listen, like I said, it's just a very important time. We cannot afford weak leaders. If we fail now, if we do not stand up and fight, we're going to look back 30 years and we're going to say that was the pivotal, that was the turning point. We had a chance to stop it and we didn't have the leadership we needed. And that is why we lost. So this is what I wanted to talk about. So that's why, talk about Steve Bannon all you want. People want to keep saying, oh, Steve Bannon, it's Steve Bannon. This is bigger than Steve Bannon. It's bigger than Donald Trump. This is a message to everyone around the country who does not believe in the modern Democrat agenda. Either you fall in line and you accept that we are in the right and that you are in the wrong. Otherwise, you are going to suffer the same fate as these people. Think about it. If they can put the former president on trial and convict him, what are they going to do to the average American that speaks up? Think about everything Trump has. We don't have 90% of what Trump has at his disposal to defend himself. You think Joe Schmo in Scranton, Pennsylvania is going to be able to defend himself against the government when they decide that you are a domestic terrorist, right? You are a threat to democracy. That's the term, and the media parrots it. So it's time to wake up. And it's time to get tough. And I'm not talking getting tough on Twitter. I'm talking about words into actions. And right now, I don't know. You guys decide. Do you have the leadership in the Republican Party that you are confident enough is going to save us after the November elections? Before we get into question and answers, I wanted to pivot to another statement that Republicans have to use. I talked to you guys last week. One of the things I said is that Republicans need to seize control of the narrative, right? I made that comment that right now the Democrats are running around the country controlling every narrative. And yes, I do understand that it is much easier for the Democrats to control the narrative when you have the media in your pocket. When you basically have state media, because that's what it is. The Washington Post, the New York Times, Politico. Those are state media outlets. They literally parrot everything the Biden regime tells them without questioning any of it. So it is easier for them to control the narrative. But if Republicans don't stand up and use their voices to take back some of the narrative, they're going to lose. And there is no better gift than the state of California, right? Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is out there running advertisements in Florida telling people to come to California. California, states like California and New York are the biggest gifts to the Republican Party, because they are the chance for Republicans to show the world what happens when you let the left get full control. And I'm not just saying you have to say, oh, you don't want a California, my Texas, right? No, you have to show the people. Republicans tend to be scared, right? To show the violence and the truth, because they're like, oh, we don't want to look mean in our ads. So I'm going to show you again the ad from last week that I showed, where the Citizens for Sanity is running an ad. This is one of the most powerful political ads I've seen in years. And this is the stuff the Republican Party has to do. This is what's happening in California. California is not a model for the nation. It is a warning to the nation. And Republicans need to show all the horrid, disgusting details of California and say, this is what is coming. The media is going to criticize you for it. They're going to call you racist. They're going to call you hate lower class people. But no, this is powerful. Let's look at the ad from the Citizens for Sanity.
For nearly 30 years, crime was falling in the United States. No more. The national murder rate is at its highest in 25 years.
Oh my God!
The result of far-left policies that leave innocent Americans at the mercy of violent criminals. You've seen the images. Subway riders pushed onto tracks by the violently deranged. Stores being looted in broad daylight. Elderly women viciously beaten on the street and outside their homes. Gang shootings turning cities into war zones. Hardened criminals rampaging without fear. No fear of arrest. No fear of prosecution. No fear of jail. No fear of any consequence at all. Instead, you are made to live in fear. Woke, progressive prosecutors are releasing dangerous predators before trial. Woke, far-left politicians have allowed our streets and parks to be overrun with crime and drugs. Police have been made into the enemy, and criminals into a protected class. Violent crime is up 21% in Washington, D.C., 35% in Chicago, 41% in New York City, and murders are up 207% in Portland. Cities in chaos, billions in property damages, lives, families destroyed. Stop the woke war on police. Stop the far-left assault on public safety. Stop the radical left-wing love affair with criminals. Stop the insanity. Citizens for Sanity paid for this ad.
That is one of the most powerful ads I have seen in a long time. That is an ad that should be coming from the RNC and the GOP. Why do we need, I said this last week, why do we need outside groups to run an ad like that? Republicans, right? Because Republicans would be scared to run that ad because the media is going to attack them as racist, as, oh, look at what you're doing. And they don't want to run an ad like that. You have to run an ad like that. This is the crazy thing. The GOP, the NRCC, the National Republican Senatorial the Republican National Senate Commission, the RNSC, right? They're meaner to their own party's candidates in primaries than they are to the Democrats in the general elections. That's crazy. They have run ads this last cycle. I keep talking about this Joe Kent in Washington, where they liken Joe Kent to Adolf Hitler. They are worse to their own candidates than they are against Democrats because they're scared to be that ruthless to Democrats because they know the media is going to label them racist and try and control the narrative, and they're too afraid to speak up and fight back. Stop being scared. You have to show the American people with their own eyes what is happening in California, in New York, in the District of Columbia, in Chicago. This is what your future holds if you allow these people to get full power. Let's look a little more at California, right? And this is what hold on, let's look a little more at California because I want to show you something. So, for instance, California, schooling. I was a teacher. California spends some of the most money per pupil in the nation. It's about $14,000 per year per pupil. All right? And our ranks, 40th. Look at the test scores in California. I'm going to show you these test scores. Is this what you want coming to your country? Let's find the test scores. Hold on. Put it back on the screen. Here we go. Less than 50% of California students met or exceeded expectations in English language arts. In math, it's even worse. 33%. Almost 34%. That's it. Met expectations for mathematics. Met their standards. All right? We're at or exceeding grade level. We spend some of the most money on education. And who is being hurt the most? Low-income minority communities, right? That is where these numbers are getting racked up, where people are losing learning time. California kept schools closed longer than any state in the country, with no regard for the impact that it was going to have on the children. You are sentencing your children in this state to a lifetime of poverty because you are not adequately educating them. Teachers' unions in California fought to keep kids out of schools with no regard to the overall effect it was going to have on these kids. And in low-income minority communities, that is where kids were hurt the most. Republicans need to get off their butt, stop being scared, go into these communities, go into LA, go into downtown Fresno where I live, go into these inner cities and show these people and not be afraid to tell them this is what Democratic leadership has done to your children. Okay? This is what they've done. They are setting your children up for a lifetime of failure because they are wasting money. They are not adequately preparing the kids because they're too busy teaching your kids about pronouns and critical race theory and gender equality than they are making sure they can read, write, and do math at grade level. And you're never going to bring these voters into it by running TV ads or putting out little fancy press releases or mails. You have to go into these communities. Go in there. I taught in New Haven, Connecticut, one of these communities. Go into those schools. Talk to those parents. Tell them you want a better life for their kids. Ranked 40th. What else does California have to offer? Well, let's look at that. Let's check something else out. California crime rates. Violent crime in the last years has ticked up. California's violent crime rate, 4.4%. National average, 4.0%. Property crime is through the roof, 21.4%. National average is 19.6%. Let me tell you why these numbers are lower than they actually are. Homicide rate up 9.1% in the last year, but arrests are down 7%. Rape, property, motor vehicle crime, all up. These numbers should be much higher, but what's happening in California, you have decriminalized many of these offenses, especially when it comes to property crimes. I own a small business. My store has been broken into 3 times in the 2 years I've been open. All right? And what has happened? Nothing. And what, nothing. First time was about $40,000 worth of stuff. Insurance covered it. Second times, I lost the money, right? Because I got dropped by my insurance because it was within the first year of being open for business. And they said, oh, you had a claim in your first year. We're not going to renew your policy. And I do sports collectibles, which is almost impossible to get insured with to begin with. So what's happening now is you've decriminalized these offenses. You can steal up to $1,000 in California and it's not even a felony. So people are not reporting property crimes because they say, what's the point? There's nothing the police can do. And that's not the police's fault. The laws are just not allowing it. So those property crimes are way higher than 21%. It's just that arrests are down. So this is like when I taught in school, right? When I taught in the inner city, they would put a chart on the board and they would say, look, our suspensions are down. Our detentions are down. Yes, because you literally could kill somebody in school and you'd be lucky if you got suspended. The kid's suspended. So suspensions were down because it was nearly impossible to get suspended. Graduation rates were up because I was told you had to give kids they could take their tests whenever they want. You can't give a kid, if a kid doesn't show up, he gets a 50. You can't give a 0. So of course graduation rates are up because we're not holding them to standards. That's what's happening with crime. You've decriminalized these offenses. Of course arrests are down because you can't arrest them because there's no law that says they're violating it anymore. I can steal up to $1,000. I can't be arrested. Look at what this story that just happened. California mom beheaded, walking down the street by her ex-boyfriend. And now we know the ex-boyfriend was an illegal immigrant with a record. This is what Republicans have to not be afraid to show the American people the ugly truth about what has happened. California is a warning to the nation. It used to be the Golden State where everybody wants to go. Now people cannot leave here fast enough. It is a warning to the nation. Let's look at another thing that California has to offer. Homelessness trends in California. Since 2007, homelessness is up 16%. The unsheltered population has gone up 26%, despite the fact that California actually spends the most money on anti-poverty programs in the country. So how can California be spending all of this money on anti-poverty programs and yet homelessness and has the highest poverty rate in the country? We have the highest real poverty rate in the country in California, despite spending all this money. Because what's happening? These programs that the liberals in Sacramento are enacting actually keep people in poverty. It gives them just enough to get by and be comfortable, right? You get a phone, you get a laptop, you get money, enough to buy groceries and this and that. So it gives them just enough with little incentive to actually go and look for work. So it keeps them right where they are. And then the best part about this for Democrats is now they're dependent on you for their stuff, right? For votes. It's basically slavery. It's indentured servitude. It's slavery, keeping these people at this poverty level. What's another thing California's doing? They're killing small businesses. The governor just signed a law last week, which is going to push the minimum wage for fast food workers could go all the way up to $25 an hour. And everybody says, oh, yippee, I have no problem with increasing wages, right? But that is not going to work for every business. What is going to happen? These fast foods are going to cut hours. They're going to automate their services, which many are doing. All these big fast food chains are actively testing restaurants where there are no actual employees. It's all done by machine. Or they're just going to close their franchises. Many of the franchisees are just going to shut down. You cannot, or you're going to raise prices, right? Instead of being $10 now for a Big Mac, it's going to be $15, $20. You used to be able to get a full meal at McDonald's for $10. Now you're lucky you get out of there spending less than $20. Let's look at some of the other things. I want to show you some videos from California that Republicans have to show. This is LA. Look at this. This is LA. Let's look at what's going on in Oakland. This is Oakland.
Come on!
This is San Francisco, which used to be one of the best places to go. A city whose economy is built a lot on tourism. That is California. Republicans should be plastering this everywhere. You're going to get labeled racist. You're going to get labeled hateful. You're going to get labeled all the names in the book, right? But people need to see it. It's not enough to just go around and tell people, well, you don't want to California my Tennessee, right? Or you don't want to California my Florida. Because people don't really understand what that means. They have to see it with their own two eyes. Those videos are eye-popping. You show that to people around the country and you say, this is what's coming. This is what has happened to New York and California. This is what's coming to your state, to your neighborhood. They see those videos plastered everywhere. They're going to pay attention. They're going to say, wait a minute. I don't want that in my community. I don't want that around my kids. When I was campaigning out in places like Fireball, we have 3 of the poorest counties in California were in my congressional district. I would go out and people would be crying. They would say, we have nowhere to go. We feel helpless. They are dropping off criminals in our streets. Our kids are doing drugs. There's gang violence everywhere. And they would say to me, thank you just for coming out here. And in many cases, when I went to these places and Democrats were there at these events, they would be like, I can't believe this guy's here. Republicans have to do this. Get off your butt. Go into these communities. Pandering alone is not enough. Putting up pictures and ads and opening all these community outreach centers isn't enough. Go down and talk to these people. Knock on their doors. Tell them what you offer them. Be unafraid. They're begging for help. They want more police. They want law and order. Stop being scared to embrace that message. If you do, they will vote for you. This is the warning for the nation. Another thing with California. Want to come to California? Look at our electricity prices, right? Electricity rates in California are 21% higher than the national average and continue to go up. And actually, you got to see this because this is what's crazy. As we move to green energy, prices continue to rise. And we're going to talk, we didn't get to it this week. I'm going to talk more about electric vehicles next week and climate change is the ultimate scam. But look at this graph. As you're increasing wind and solar capacity, prices are still shooting through the roof. Why is that? Because wind and solar only produce electricity about 30% of the time. What do you do the rest of the time? The other 60% of the or 70% of the time, you have to get it from traditional sources. And as you wage war in these traditional sources, it's driving the prices up. So California is a warning to the nation, and Republicans have to stop being scared of hurting people's feelings, of being labeled racist, of being labeled hateful, of being labeled out of touch. No. Sometimes the hard truth is what people need to hear. Okay? Because if people see these images of what's happening in California with their own two eyes and what's happening in New York, they will wake up and they will say, no way. We cannot have that in our communities. Take back the narrative. Be bold. Be a leader. That is the message that I'm trying to give to Republicans. And that is why I spend a lot of time attacking the Republican Party, because I expect more from our leaders. I continue to say this. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I expect more from my leadership in the Republican Party. I have talked to the people around the district in California, and I know that they're counting on us to be their voice, not to let them down. They're counting on us. These people deserve to feel safe in their own communities. They deserve for their kids to get a quality education so they can elevate themselves out of poverty. Because what is the best way to elevate someone out of poverty? It is by granting them access to a quality education. These people are depending on us to be their voice. And if we are too big of cowards to stand up to the left, to stand up to the media, we are letting them down. And I can't allow that. I have to be their voice. And I'm going to put pressure on leadership to be their voice and to do something. Because like I said, we may not get many more chances. So there were some questions. Let's head into the question and answer part. Spent a little longer on the first segment than I anticipated, but let's hear some questions. I'd love to take some questions. Somebody asked me about New Hampshire primaries tomorrow. I don't know if you're still here. Who was it? That was Nevada Maverick asked me about New Hampshire primaries. And I know there's a very big contested primary in New Hampshire 1. You know, and I personally believe that I would support Caroline Leavitt. I like her a lot. I believe she's a true America First patriot. And I think she needs people to get out and vote for her. I think she's going to be a fighter. And the fact that they're spending, I think she was on Tucker Carlson the other day, and she said that McCarthy's spending probably $3 million to try and defeat her. That tells you all you need to know. And this is the thing about Kevin McCarthy. You know, I wasn't going to harp on him a lot tonight, but go and look at where his leadership pack spent money in the primaries. They went after America First candidates. So you can call yourself America First all you want on TV and on Twitter, but the money doesn't lie. The actions speak louder than words. That's the age-old adage, right? They went after me. They went after Anthony Sabatini. They went after John Gibbs. They went after Joe Kent. They went after, they basically took out, that was our own party that took out Madison Cawthorn. That was paid for by Senator Phyllis. He paid for everything to run the oppo on Madison Cawthorn. Now, Madison's actions, obviously Madison didn't help himself in some cases, but that was the Republicans who dug it up to get rid of him. Right? So, if they're willing to spend $3 million to oppose Caroline Leavitt, that means you should vote for Caroline Leavitt. That means they're scared. They need people they can control. DC is about preserving the status quo. I wasn't interested in going to Washington to preserve the status quo because, like I said, I was talking to these voters who had tears in their eyes telling me they needed help for their families. They wanted better lives for their kids. They wanted safe neighborhoods. They were my priority. Why waste so money versus... Exactly, Nevada. Why are we spending so much money killing our own? Like I said, the Republican Party is worse to their own candidates in primary elections than they are to Democrats in the generals. Why are they doing that, Nevada? Because they don't want people they cannot control, right? It's not just Kevin. It would be anyone that's an establishment figure that would be Speaker of the House. Mitch McConnell. They don't want people that are going to break the status quo, okay? They don't want that. DC runs on the status quo, continuing to get rich off never actually doing anything. So these people like me, like others that actually want to go there and do something, they can't have that. Well, we'll see about that, Nevada. That's a good question. We're going to talk about that, about primary and certain people next time. But yeah, they can't have that. And I'll tell you a story. There was Jim Costa is a Democrat representative. He calls himself a blue dog. He's been representing this part of California for about 20-something years. He's been in politics his whole life, about 40 years. He's done absolutely nothing. Johnny Teixeira ran against him in the old California 16th Congressional District. So now I live in the 13th, but prior to that, it was the 16th Congressional District. And I was originally planning to run against Jim Costa. All right. In 2012, a man named Johnny Teixeira beat Jim Costa on election night. All right. He was declared the victor. Decision desk, AP, they called the race. Johnny Teixeira went to D.C., went to Washington, was sworn in, actually voted on the floor. And guess who came up to him? Paul Ryan at the time was the Speaker of the House. And if you know where I live, I've told this story already in previous episodes, but where I live, water is an important issue. We need water. This is an agriculture community. We feed 70% of the United States as fruits and vegetables come from the Central Valley in California. Johnny Teixeira was a farmer. He was a dairyman. His passion was he was going to go there and he was going to solve this issue. Paul Ryan came up to him and told him, listen, we like how you ran on the water issue, but do not, you got to tone it down when you get here. Do not step on anyone's toes. We need that as a campaign issue. So we're not really interested in solving the problem. And this is not just that issue. This is what happens in Washington. They care more about using issues for campaigns than getting anything done. That is why both parties have run on the issue of immigration for 30, 40 years and done nothing when they've gotten to power. Because if you solve the problem, what are you going to campaign on? That's another reason why they could not stand Donald Trump, right? Because Donald Trump wasn't concerned. Yeah, that's right. Donald Trump wasn't concerned about preserving the status quo. He didn't need their money. He didn't need to be a lifetime politician. He was already rich. So he went to Washington. He tried to deliver on his promises. And both sides said, whoa, wait a minute, buddy. We don't do that here. We don't actually solve the problems. We just use them to fundraise off of, to get reelected, to continue this little game we got going on. So Trump was the biggest threat they'd ever seen because he ascended to the most powerful position in the country, and his intention was to actually do the things he promised. And they said, whoa, we cannot have that. You're killing our gravy train. I think, I see your comment about without Trump's endorsement, McCarthy would have won. I think we'll see what happens after the AKA of political football. Yes, Steve. So I see, we'll see some things happen depending on what the majority looks like after the November elections. But listen, the victory in November it's not a sure thing. And people want to say, oh, it's Donald Trump's fault. Republicans are losing ground. That's bullcrap. Donald Trump is outrunning Republicans across the country. That should tell the GOP all they need to know. People like what Trump's offering. They're not excited about what you're offering. Harvard-Harris poll just came out today. Generic congressional ballot flipped. They had the Democrats up 51 to 47, I believe. Now, I don't necessarily believe the poll because this is the funny season. They're going to try and make you believe that that the Democrats are surging. Nonsense. But in the same poll, they also found that Donald Trump was plus 3 or 4 nationally over Joe Biden and plus 7 on Kamala Harris. So why is Donald Trump outrunning generic Republicans? Because Donald Trump is offering them something you are not. He is motivating them. His platform, his America First platform, motivates them. If we lose or we do not pick up a big majority like expected in November, it's not because of Donald Trump. It has not become America First. It is because we didn't embrace his concepts. And voters are looking at it and saying, this is the same Republican Party that is the rich white man's party, right? Donald Trump turned the GOP into a blue-collar party, and these people are not taking that message. So in order for us to do what we need to do and to win in November, stop running from the president, stop running from America First, embrace it, and you will bring more people into your side than you have ever thought possible. I know your consultants don't like that because they've made a career off getting paid, spewing the Karl Rove, George W. Bush type stuff. Nevada, good question. Why is Trump not declared for president? Well, I think Trump was trying to wait until after the midterms. I now right, I've changed my tune. I don't know if you guys listen to Rich Barris, great guy, one of the smartest people I know. He's People's Pundit Daily, does a great show 3 times a week. You should all subscribe to him on YouTube, Getter, Truth Social. But he was the same way. We said that Trump should wait until after the midterms. Totally flip. I think Trump needs to declare now, because then he can look back and say Joe Biden, he can turn the tables on Biden, because now Joe Biden is actually going after his filed, announced opponent in 2024. Turn the tables on him. Declare your candidacy now, and that way, it's right there in the open. Joe Biden is now actively going after his number one opponent who is beating him in the polls. Remember when they said, when Donald Trump went on the stage, or when Donald Trump talked about, that's why they impeached him, right? He talked about, hey, seeing what was going on, the corruption with Hunter in Ukraine, and they said, whoa, you're gonna go after your political opponent, Joe Biden? How could the president do this? He is a dictator. That is third world type behavior. The Democrats are masters of projection. They accuse others of what they themselves are doing. Hence the fascism right now. They are accusing MAGA Republicans of being fascists when they themselves are the ones acting as fascists, and they get the media to parrot it, and then people go along with it because they're ignorant to history and they don't even know what fascism is. I get put on lists every day on Twitter, and it's so ironic to me because a couple people added me to one today. Like, they'll add me to their list, fascists or bigot or racists. And it's ironic that people who are calling me a fascist are adding me to lists, because that is what fascists do. That is what totalitarians do. They add you to lists. So yeah, any other questions before we wrap up for the evening? I'd love to take a few more. If you're on Rumble, I don't get let me go on Rumble because I don't get all the notifications on my thing. Let's see if there's any questions on Rumble. Oh, hold on. Here we go. No questions on Rumble right now. So if anyone else has any, can the country even survive the next 2 years with this weak leadership? Well, that's the problem. That's why I'm telling you that we need strong leadership. That's why I'm telling you we need leaders worthy of 1776. This is one of the most pivotal times in this country. People say this all the time. Oh, it's the most important election coming up in our lives, right? I actually believe at this time we have one side of the country that has decided they want to fundamentally change America, and they're willing to do anything to get that done, to make their vision of America reality. They're willing to crush anyone or everything that stands in their way. And if we win the House and the Senate this year, we cannot afford to play patty cake, because you may not get many more chances. Because the voters are going to look and say, listen, we gave you guys power again and you didn't follow through. Okay? We cannot afford to have that happen, because not only is that going to hurt you in 2022 or in the next 2 years, it's going to hurt you in 2024 when Trump's running again. Because why are they going to give you power again when you've let them down over and over and over again? So we might not be able to survive 2 years of weak leadership. Nevada, ranked choice voting. Great question. Do I think Alaska is screwed? Well, it's going to be tough now, because you have the one candidate who is refusing to drop out because he doesn't like Sarah Palin. He's a rhino and he wants to drop out. Ranked choice voting is a scam. Okay. The proponents of ranked choice voting are telling you, oh, it's great because it's going to give these minority parties more power. Libertarian Party loves ranked choice voting. How many libertarians have been elected because of ranked choice voting? 0. None. No libertarian has won thanks to ranked choice voting. What ranked choice voting does is it actually helps the party in states where they are less powerful. So, right, Alaska, a very red state, ranked choice voting allows their candidate to win with 40% of the vote. while Republicans got 60% of the vote. Whenever the Democrats are in favor of a new way of voting, you have to take a step back and you have to say, why are they in favor of it? They're not in favor of it because it's fair and easy. They're in favor of it because it benefits them. They want ranked choice voting to go around the country because that is how they're going to be able to they cannot win in Texas, in Tennessee, in Utah, in all of these places, legit one-on-one against a Republican. So what they need is ranked choice voting because that weakens the party in power and it also weakens outsiders. It actually helps the establishment on both sides. So I think ranked choice voting is terrible. I think it's unconstitutional. I think it needs to be challenged. I would love to see what the Supreme Court would rule on it. I think it's complete crap. You vote for one candidate, the best candidate that you want to pick. This isn't, we can't have our cake and eat it too. Oh, let's vote for everybody. Let's rank them all. That's nonsense. It's a convoluted system. And so if two Republicans are going to go until November, the Republicans, Missouri Republicans pushing it. They're doing this because the Democrats, right? Oh, what, you guys want to disenfranchise people? They get scared and they're afraid to stand up. You're signing your own death warrant. Lisa Murkowski pushed ranked choice voting because she knew she would not survive and win another term because Republican voters were done with her. So she wanted ranked choice voting because it gave her the best chance to stay in the Senate. She picked herself and her interests over the people of Alaska. Over the people of Alaska. And Republicans are falling for ranked choice voting because the Democrats are saying how great it is, right? Oh, don't you want to help minority parties and this and that and give people more choices? And Republicans are too scared to tell people the dangers of ranked choice voting. You're signing your own seat away. Would it be better for Palin to drop out? She came in second. I believe that the person who are the top two, those would be the ones that should go to November. So, she came in second in the voting, and I think that entitles her to be the one that goes on to the general. And I know she still has President Trump's support. And quite frankly, I think the other person should drop out. He did not come in the top two. Drop out. You came in third. It's over. We need this seat. All right. Any more before we head out for the evening? I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm going to be doing this every Monday. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Getter, True Social, Instagram, at David Giglio CA. What's up, Chris? At David Giglio CA. You can follow me on all those platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Make sure you subscribe to my Rumble channel. And we're going to keep doing this because I want to have a voice and I want to represent you. So thank you guys. What we're doing on night, I don't know. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If there's any more last questions, I'll take them. But other than that, we will be back next week. I'm going to pick up next week with the why climate change is a scam. I'm going to talk to you about electric vehicles. Gavin Newsom running around saying we're going to have zero emissions by 2045. Lies. Electric vehicles are not zero emissions. And next week, I'm going to tell you exactly why they are not zero emission vehicles and why some studies are actually showing that electric vehicles and renewable energy is going to be worse for the environment than conventional methods. Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you, and